Hello everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to the first series of Avanade webinars. Let me introduce myself and what we want to do today. So I'm Diana Philip, I'm Deputy CEO for Junior Achievement in Europe, and I'm very pleased to be working with Avanade for the second year in a row to award the best team for the Best Digital Innovation Award. And last year we experienced a great result in Latvia, where the winning team had opportunity to go to London and be mentored and be in touch with executives from Avanade for a very great award ceremony. But we also want to give the opportunity to as many of you as possible to be prepared for this award, because it's a great opportunity to be able to have this chance to be mentored by senior executives from Avanade and get the chance to receive also some also boost for your company, because you will receive a bit of a prize for it. But I will let Tina tell you more about that. So this we've been working with Avanade for many years, but the series of Digital Innovation Award, this is the second edition, and the next competition will take place in Oslo during our Enterprise Education Challenge. And we already know that around 17 teams from across Europe, the national winners, will be attending the Oslo event. I know that I've been counting myself that at least 14 national teams are attending today, 14 nationalities. I know that some of the teams have not had their national competitions yet. So we will make this webinar available for everyone. Let me give you a little bit more about the award. So the award is supposed to recognize young entrepreneurs who showcase a digitally innovative mindset as you are conceiving your business idea or concept that you will be presenting at the Enterprise Challenge in Oslo. And the teams will be judged by senior leaders from Avanade, who will assess the business idea in terms of viability, feasibility, sustainability, digital ethics, and the team's presentations and soft skills. So more about that, Tina will be telling you a bit later. And we are preparing this with a series of webinars. This is the first one, and in order to give you more insight on artificial intelligence and big data, we've invited Toby Goldblatt, Avanade Executive and Vice President for Data and AI in Europe, to give us more information on that. Tina, would you like us to start maybe presenting the award?
Yeah, so this is the second year that Avanade have sponsored this signature award, and we're absolutely thrilled to share this award. It's the idea of this really, because we're all about digital innovation, it really is looking to encourage you as young entrepreneurs to really put your digital skills into practice and look for ways within your businesses, your startups, that digital technology can really be integrated. So not just an add-on, but really integrated through the premise of your business idea. We've got some very top judges who will be in Oslo for the event. So Matt Joe is our Avanade Chief Technology Officer. Lisa Af Ekstam has several roles. She's our European Marketing Lead, and she also leads our Technology for Social Good business. Jens Bo Nielsen leads our Nordic region. So all of our countries in the Nordic regions report up to Jens. And then Heba Ramsey, who's actually my boss, fantastic lady, she leads our corporate citizenship practice here globally at Avanade. And as Diane alluded to a little while ago, we have a couple of prizes. So there is a cash prize of €1,000, which, I mean, you can spend as you wish, but we hope that you use that money to further what you're doing within your startups and your business. There will also be the opportunity to meet our Avanade senior executives here in Europe. So we'll invite you to London, and you can meet Darren Hardman, who leads our European practice, and a number of our top executives. And also, this is new this year, we would like to offer you one-to-one mentoring, which really is gold dust, because I think if you from the experiences of other programs that we run, so we also run a scholarship and we provide our scholars with mentors, and they find it invaluable to have a seasoned executive who they can connect with to really talk about sort of any sort of issues really around not just around digital technology and so on, but really just how to help shape your career. So how to get those first steps on the ladder and where you might want to put your focus and so on. So that's a little bit about overall about the award. Okay, so as you can see, we've got a percentage breakdown here, and we're looking for the use of digital innovation, the viability and feasibility, again, of that digital innovation, your business sustainability, and then also some of the presentation and soft skills, because sometimes teams do a fabulous job pulling everything together, but then if they're not able to communicate it terribly well, then it can all sort of be lost at that stage. So that's also very important. And then we've added a new one this year, which is an extra 5 points for the teams that really look at the digital ethics. I believe that's a part of Toby's presentation. We'll touch on digital ethics, so I'll get into a little bit more of what that means. So really, we're looking to see, as I mentioned up front, it's not just, we don't just want to see the technology as an add-on or a back office helping you run. We really would love to see how you're integrating digital technologies into your user experience, your design, etc., so that your business really is underpinned by those digital technologies, and hence that's 45% of the scores. Secondly, we want to see that your businesses really are viable and feasible. So that sort of looks more at your business plan, and is it practical? Is it well presented? Do you have a strategy, a business case? Maybe you have a partnership structure, or you've looked at the distribution channels depending on the type of business. So that's again heavy marks. 30% of the marks is around this viability, feasibility. We've then put in 15% of the marks around sustainability, and sustainability, that doesn't just mean are you recycling your paper, or are you emailing rather than printing. It really is looking at, is your business sustainable? Do you have a succession plan for your people? Are you looking at how you can be agile and efficient? So it's really, have you baked sustainability right through? Is it systemic rather than just sort of tacked on? So that's very important. And then finally, this presentation and soft skills, because really you have to, it's very important that you know how to present your story succinctly and in a compelling way to the judges. So I think it's really important that once you've sort of got your business plan ready, that you spend some time sort of thinking, well, how are we going to communicate this, and really sort of plan that through. And then, as I mentioned, we have this new criteria, which is this extra sort of 5 points looking at digital ethics. So that again, that can be security, it can be GDPR, which we all know an awful lot about here in Europe. But again, is it sort of systemic and thought through within your business plan versus sort of an add-on? Okay, so that was all I was going to say. I don't know, Diane and David, if we have managed to get Toby on board.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Perfect.
Hey, hi, Toby.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the introduction and the opportunity. I'm super, excited to be part of this program. To introduce myself, so I look after data and AI in Europe for Avanade. I've been working in the industry for a long time now. I won't tell you exactly how long, because I'm not sure I like it myself, but I have a real background in the startup side. So I do recognize where many of you are coming from in this space. And as an industry, we need to see a lot more collaboration between startups and organizations who are of scale in this space. I think the important thing to say at the outset around AI is really a little story. So about 2 weeks ago, I presented to a bunch of 10 and 11-year-old girls on AI in their school. And we were talking about the opportunities around AI in education. And the ideas that came from that group were phenomenal. Not all of them had to be the most technically advanced, but they were very human, they were very considered, they were very ethical, and they were technically smart. So, for example, very simple things like looking at that using broadcast technology to deliver to children who were unwell, so they didn't miss lessons, and then being able to personalize the lessons. So my point is that the opportunities from AI are limited by only our imagination, and they certainly aren't defined by our age and experience. So really super excited to be part of this program and the opportunities and the ideas that you all create, and how then they can be taken into further commercial areas. So hopefully that gives a bit of a perspective as to how I look at it. So if we move on to the next slide, please. So we've discussed this already a little bit, but Avanade is obviously the leading provider of innovative digital and cloud services. And I think the digital industry is a really interesting industry now that is made of a convergence of classic technology firms, as well as consultancies, startups, agencies, and software companies. So it's a really vibrant market that is being formed as we speak. It's so advanced that we're not really able yet to fully calculate or quantify the industry, which is great for all of you creating businesses and ideas in this space. So if we can just move on. And what I love, and the reason that I've been in the industry for so long, is it's changing every industry, and that's without fail. So consumer goods and services are now being adapted and personalized to customers all over the world. I work with a drinks company that customers have changed from being very much Europe-centric to being very much now in emerging markets in Asia and in the Middle East. And they are using then the data on those new customers to adapt their production line in real time to meet the needs of those customers. They're also then using AI to track where their products are going so they can see how the adoption around the world. Energy and utilities, we work with customers who are looking at monitoring assets, dams and reservoirs, using drones and image recognition technology, and predicting the issues with those dams and reservoirs, so to stop problems before they happen. And the phrase they use is to use technology, not pouring concrete, to solve problems, and which is having a massive environmental impact and a cost impact. Financial services, I won't dwell on because there's a huge amount of innovation in the space already that many of you will see with all the startups that are going on in this space. And health as well is also a well-known use case for AI, where just image recognition alone is enabling doctors and healthcare professionals to identify patterns or potential illnesses far quicker than ever before, and most importantly, at a greater scale than ever before, and using machine learning to get smarter at doing it every time. So a massive impact on the healthcare and some of the other areas as well. I'll just touch on retail as well. So the combination of physical and digital retail is really about hyper-personalization and smart supply chain, which is fundamentally being driven by linking things like what's trending on Instagram or Snapchat, and making sure that that's then available within the online or physical store of your chosen retailer in real time. So those are just some examples, and I'm sure that you all have some fantastic ideas that touch on these industries about how the work that we're doing in this space is changing every industry right now. So just moving on. If I can get the next slide, please. Thank you. So the word AI is probably one of the most overused words right now. What does it really mean? And just to put it in a simple sense, and I'll provide my own overlay onto this in a minute. So really it's about understanding, and that's understanding increasing volumes and qualities of data. And it's not always perfect data. It's what I would call dirty data. So data that is either not structured, has been stored in inconsistent formats, is in inconsistent places, but there is insight and value in that data. It's then determining some logic from that data, some reasoning, identifying some patterns, and doing this in an automated way at scale. And the bit that I think is often forgotten by people, practitioners, particularly in machine learning and AI, is around the interface, the importance of the user interface, the UI, which is really about how do we engage with humans. And at Avanade, we talk a lot about being human-centric in what we do. And I think our priority as a business and as an industry is about making technology easy to engage with, which means that whether you're using voice or you're using text or you're using images, that it's easy to engage with and accessible. I used to do a lot of work working with people of mixed ability, physical disabilities and neurodiverse individuals as well. The way that they need to engage with technology or technology to assist them needs to be considered in the solutions that we solve. Otherwise, we're being exclusive with our technology rather than inclusive. So really, very simple definition: understanding massive data sets at an increasing scale, reasoning using automation and machine learning approaches and algorithms, and then using great interfaces to execute on that. So does that make sense? So without creating too much fear around it, if you're not AI first by 2020, it will be too late. And I'm not sure that's entirely true, that it will be too late by 2020, but it will be a case where first mover advantage is becoming more and more important. So interfaces and user experiences are being determined all the time. We're looking very much at assisting individuals, so enabling humans to do more and to do more of what they can do effectively, and automating away the less valuable repeatable tasks. So this is not about replacing humans, it's about augmenting people to enable them to focus on the really important components. And there's a constant approach to, you may have heard of DevOps, but design ops. So one of the big components about an AI-based world is that it continuously learns based on the volume of data and experiences available to the algorithm. So really you need to design operations into your products. So design ops and DevOps about the ability to continuously learn and continuously improve the product. And so it's almost the next stage, if you're familiar with waterfall and agile kind of project management, it's almost the next form of that, which is saying it's a continuous operational environment to improve the customer experience, to improve the quality of the algorithm, to improve the volume of the data set that's available, and also to do so in an ethical way, which was touched on at the top of this call. So the question has changed from in recent times from can we to should we. And I'll give you a very personal example of this that may resonate with some of you. So when Facebook first came out, what was it, 2009, 2010, or first scaled up to that sort of level, I was working at a data company. You wouldn't call it an AI company at that time, but we were doing AI techniques. And we had the opportunity of mashing together people's browsing history on Google with Facebook data. And we were a data company, so we understood data very well. There was no legal impact. There was no law at that point that restricted that activity from being undertaken. But at that point, we had a long ethical discussion about whether it was right and within the spirit of the law to execute, not whether it was actually within the confines of the law. And I think what you're seeing at the moment, particularly with some of the social media organizations and also with some other corporates, is that the law is now catching up, particularly in Europe, catching up with what people have been doing, as you may call as unethical or grey practices for a period of time. So it's really important that you focus on the should we as well as could we, and ethics will, in terms of data and AI, will always have to be a forerunner to the legal environment and framework, just because legislators around the world cannot keep up. We're also challenged in that space by the fact that we have different legislative environments around the world, but a number of the digital innovations and products and services that we can bring to market are by definition global. So we have to have our very own, very clear ethical code to which we operate to, which has to be human-centric, focused on privacy, and as a core, and then with some particular dimensions related to any individual business. And I'm really delighted to see that that will be a component of the evaluation criteria for this year's award. So moving on, and then we'll come on to some questions. I may not get through all of the slides today. So we talk a lot about data and AI, but the other side of that is then automation. So the intelligent bit comes from leveraging, artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques, but really automating that, taking that intelligence and deploying it at scale is the real challenge. So I work with a huge bunch of startups now in the last couple of years in the AI space who do tremendous things, super advanced things from the algorithmic side of it, from the data science side. The challenge they face, the challenge that companies like Avanade, and our partners Accenture and Microsoft solve, is doing that at massive scale. So I think when you're thinking about your businesses and your innovations, there's two sides that you may want to consider. You may not have to, don't necessarily pick both, but you may want to pick one. Do you want to focus on the innovation, or do you want to focus on scaling out? But there are many examples where the less advanced idea or technology or innovation has been easier to adopt and scale. And scaling is going to be something, and adoption is going to be something that is continuously important. It often doesn't get the headlines and the airtime that it should, but actually being able to scale a technology, scale an idea, translate from innovation to scale is a critical component of the period of time that we're in. So very quickly, if we just move on to the next slide, I'm not going to go through all of these, but here are some examples of use cases that we are deploying AI and database solutions across industries right now. So I'll just pick on a couple. So self-driving vehicles, the first one there under transportation, is one that many people talk about and know a lot about. I was in our center, an industrial IoT center outside Munich, a week or so ago, looking at some work that's been done with a gaming company to simulate automated driving experiences. Why is that? Well, it's because you can't simulate the number of road miles that you can't actually drive the number of road miles the automotive regulators need to be able to really fully accredit self-driving vehicles. So trying to use automation to look at that scale problem there. If I pick another one that I haven't touched on already, if you look at a common one at the moment, customer service virtual agents in financial services, but frankly in every industry. So we've become a society that's devoted to our phones, and text has become our mode of choice. But most businesses still today are forcing us to use call centers to engage with them to address customer service. Customer service virtual agents are designed to interface with individuals based on the mechanism that they prefer to communicate, be that text, be that through social media, be that through voice, be that through face and image. But then the learning that needs to go behind that, the algorithms that need to go behind that to be able to process are quite complex. But that's a really good example of what I mean about making sure that the interface is available and accessible by all. So that's just a couple of examples. There are some others on here, and I'm sure that you'll be able to see these later on. Just talk about them from one other perspective, which is across business functions. So if we look at the next slide, please. So this just shows some of the use cases across functions. So every part, not only is it every industry is changing, and I'm sure you're all aware of this, every function in an organization is changing too. So whether that's sales and marketing, customer engagement and channels, research and development and innovation, the operations and the workforce, or finance, risk and HR and those core processes. So let me touch on a couple of those. So one of the most fun ones at the moment I'm seeing in sales and marketing is demand forecasting. So we're working with some retailers at the moment where, as I say, we're using image recognition to look at photos and images of clothing on Instagram, and then feed that into the retailer to effectively give them a forecast on demand, which they can then put into their supply chain for manufacturing and promoting to the customer. Would never have been available before. Another one that often gets talked about, you may not have heard about, is something called digital twin, which is effectively creating a digital copy of a factory or an industrial environment, enabling people to simulate what would happen if they added a machine in or took a machine out, how to optimize the running of an industrial environment to make it more secure, to make it safer, and to make it more productive. The other one that is being used very frequently at the moment is particularly around fraud detection in the back office, in the finance and risk functions, to be able to ensure that it's not just systems that are cyber secure, it's processes within organizations as well. So a whole bunch of use cases across different functions of the organization that give a great platform for innovation. And hopefully this helps you understand and see why there are tremendous opportunities for innovation from all parts, all parts of the world. So if we just move on, and I'll probably bring this to a close in a minute if I may. So just one more slide, please. So just some thoughts to leave you with. I'm not sure if that slide is rendered quite properly, but I think the main message is there. This transformation requires that we rethink old models. So, for example, think about how you can merge physical and digital experiences. We've gone through a period where it's been all about building digital experiences. We're now in a period where we're seeing the impact of that, where people are talking about the loss of community, the loss of face-to-face interaction. We're all walking down streets, looking at our phones, not looking at other humans. How can we merge physical and digital? How can we reinvent high streets or shopping malls? Secondly, how can we extract value from data? There is data everywhere, and data is all around us. And a lot of data, there's a lot of data waste, something which isn't talked about a lot. How can we extract that value? Also, machine learning needs to be able to identify patterns in data. So there's a large industry that's emerging, which is around data tagging and putting a taxonomy and intelligence around the data so that machine learning can really take effect. And thirdly, think about the cloud, and the cloud is one of these things that is enabling this massive transformation at scale. With organizations like Microsoft, which is the key Avanade partner here. So really, cloud is enabling us to operate on a global basis and to personalize and to be able to manage these large sets of data at increasing scale. So how can you use the cloud to deploy quicker, to address this issue of scale, to enable data to be used effectively, but also think of the environmental impacts of the cloud, which often aren't front and center. So the cost of running data centers, the fact that they need a huge amount of energy to cool them, and how we make them more efficient as effectively the power stations of our current generation. So there's a few more slides here, but I'm going to bring this to a close and then take questions. If we could can we just jump on a few slides, please? Thank you. So just from an Avanade perspective, it's really important. One of the reasons I joined the company was about the human centric manner in which we approach these challenges and the values of the organization. So at Avanade, and these are things that you should be thinking about when you're looking at your companies too. So our values and your values don't need to be the same, but you do need to have some values, I'd suggest, is that we focus on changing things for the better. We believe everybody counts, so it's not just about technologists, it's about that full human experience. We innovate with passion and purpose, we deliver with excellence, and we act with integrity and respect. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an overview of perspectives on data and AI, some ideas about how Avanade fits into that, some suggestions that you might be able to look at in terms of your projects and programs and businesses you're building. So thank you very much, and if there's time, I'll take questions.
Thank you very much, Toby. Very insightful presentation. And I think there are some questions, so I will just ask my colleague David if he can help me to address those.
So I have a question from Tim Krier, and he's asking, how can AI under any form be used in a media startup?
Wow, okay. Great question, but how long is the answer? So I think media, media is a really interesting industry. So one of my passions about anything to do with AI right now is about addressing audiences, really large audiences. And if you look at what Netflix has done to the media world, it's really addressed a global audience in a very personalized way for the first time. So the obvious answer is the type of solutions that Netflix has got deployed around doing mass personalization and recommendation, which is purely driven by AI. There are many, many other use cases in media, and I'm more than happy to take this one offline as well, particularly around content ingestion, content tagging, content creation, subtitling, adaptation for different languages, optimizing deployment and those sorts of areas. You can almost think about the whole content production supply chain for that. Other areas of media that I've personally worked in include global sports as well, which has been very much around audience engagement and optimization. But more than happy to take that one offline. Tim, if you want to get my details and come back to me directly, but hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, another question is, how can I improve the distribution on social media with AI? Is it possible?
So if that means the distribution of content and the adoption of content, of posts or adverts, yeah, absolutely. And I think this comes back to the same point, actually, around audience. So it's about really understanding the audience you're targeting and the data sets associated with them. So I was having a conversation yesterday about identifying women over the age of 70 across the world and engaging them on social media for a beauty brand. So what we were talking about was what are the criteria that that audience would be showing, and what would then be the pattern on social media that we could identify and target. So it absolutely can, but identifying those criteria and that pattern is really important to then work out what data you need to collect and how you then need to use machine learning to address it.
Thanks. We have another question. How should we be looking to leverage data in a startup? And in brackets, if we maybe don't have our own data.
That's a great question and comes into the ethics and privacy. So data is kind of everywhere. It's just how to look. So I'll give you a great example. So there is a huge startup ecosystem that's built around London transportation, on the back of some of the public, the tube and the bus data in London being made available publicly via APIs. Many industries and companies now publish their data, publish access to their data via APIs, and most do it on a free basis. Some you have to pay for, but most is free. So I think you need to think about what your business problem you're trying to solve is, what data sets you can then get access to in a free space, and then how you can leverage that to make your product or your innovation better.
Thank you. We have still a few minutes. I have another couple of questions. How can AI address different social challenges, for example, the climate change?
Oh, phenomenal question, and one that you know I'm really passionate about, and really fortunate that Avanade are really passionate about too. So I think I gave you an example earlier around climate change, which isn't the normal one. So one of the ways that I've seen AI be used to address climate change and environmental issues is by using prediction. You know, predicting failure, so predicting a ship that would break before it creates an oil leak, predicting a dam that's going to burst before it does burst, and then being able to fix it. So using the patterns of data and weather to be able to predict these things, that has a huge positive environmental impact. And the second is being able to use AI and data to do smart things with buildings and power stations and things like that, so that we can dial down consumption when we don't need it. The third is being able to then look at model and forecast and simulate how the climate is evolving around the world, and then look at how any predictive action would come into place should we use it. So the number of use cases in the environmental side are massive. Also, there are other areas as well, and you can probably tell this is a subject I have a great deal of passion and interest for. We're just exploring an opportunity in the UK right now about using AI to identify individuals who might not be as physically active as they should be, and then using personalization algorithms to get them more active. Also looking at ways that AI could be used to deliver, to power drones to deliver medical supplies and education materials to hard to reach parts of Africa. So the number of use cases there is limitless and only bounded by the imagination, and I would be delighted to see this community come up with ideas in that space.
Thank you. Another question is, do you have any examples of how the predictive data can be used in the social sector? For example, could we potentially predict epidemics?
Yeah, and that work has already happened, particularly out of, it's an area it's going to have a look at in more detail. I don't have the case to hand. If you look at bird flu, which some of you may remember, there's a bird flu epidemic out of Asia a few years back. That was simulated using AI. So that would be a really good example to look at. There are yes, there's a number of examples out there, but that would be one to go and have a look at if you really want to be interested in how epidemics can spread and how you can take corrective action.
Okay, another couple of questions. Actually, three. One just came in. One is asking, is there any disadvantage to use AI and big data?
Yes, there is. There's a disadvantage around it. You have to maintain the algorithm. As I talked about earlier, you have to operationalize that. So, situations change. These are algorithms that do adapt, but are based on a set of common rules and protocols. So you have to make sure that the behavior is still in line with the outcomes that you want to achieve. The ethical aspect and privacy aspect, as we collect more data, we have more of a risk from cybersecurity and privacy breaches as well. So there's a number of downsides around it. And I think the third downside I touched on as well when I was talking was the risk that we rely far more on machines and on algorithms and far less on humans and the skills that we've built over thousands and thousands of years. So balancing that is quite a task.
Thank you. Another question is, how can we use AI in our businesses without it replacing us?
So I think there are most use cases are around AI supporting business processes and activities, not replacing individuals. That's a pretty broad question, so I won't go into specifics on the call now, but I think you need to think about what are the bits that are really important from a human point of view. I'm at a conference today, and somebody was saying, why can't we automate a conference? Well, it's because the human-to-human interaction when you're doing business is important. You could automate many parts of that, but that bit of it is still very important. That humans still physically, interact with each other. So I think it's important to think about which are the bits of your idea or your innovation of your business that could and should be automated, and the bits that are really valuable to be done by humans.
Well, I think we could probably conclude here because we still have a couple of minutes left, and I wanted to give a little bit of update on the next steps. So I learned a lot from this. I think it's really important to understand what's the power of using data and AI, and I hope it's been insightful for everyone on this call, all the startups and all the coordinators, so that you could really think how you can use the data and AI in your startup. And it's just the beginning. This is just the first series of webinars, and we will record this, so you will have a chance to listen to it again, and we will also share the slides. And we have another webinar coming up on the 16th of April between 4 and 5 Central European time on digital innovation and design thinking. So this will also come in the follow-up from today's call with a specific invitation to register to the next webinar. And if you still have questions that were not answered in today's webinar on the 16th, there is an opportunity to address that in a digital clinic, which we will do on the 15th of May, where you will have an opportunity to ask different kind of questions and challenges that you might have to directly experts from Avanade, and that could be more opportunity for more Q&A, so you can really go more deeply into the topics, because I think this discussion today was really nice, and I really appreciate all your questions that made this webinar very lively. So as I said, please mark your calendar for the 16th of April for the digital innovation and design thinking, and we will have John Nile, who's the group manager, design strategy director at Avanade. So he will be doing the next webinar, and then we will have the digital cleaning on the 15th of May. So if you have done all that, you could also go on the website of the Enterprise Challenge to really see all the profiles of the teams that are competing for all the awards, including the Havana Digital Innovation Award, and the teams that will be coming to the Enterprise Challenge in Oslo. And as a follow-up, we will be sending you an email because we would like to get your feedback on this webinar, and maybe also what are the topics you would like us to include in the future if we've not considered it so far. So I don't have more to say. I just wanted to thank you all for participating. To special thank Avanade for supporting this award, for helping us coordinate these webinars, and for making your executives available for speaking with our startups in the digital clinics in order to help them better prepare them for the future, not only for the competition. I think these are skills that will be needed in their future life. So thank you so much, everyone.